viewers, I'm Anjali Singh, your today's host for Speak Your Mind, the Judgment Free Zone, an initiative by Calm Sage to offer you a safe, secure, open, free, and a friendly platform where you can come up and talk about life issues, events, and challenges that center around your mental health and overall wellness in one way or the other. With an aim to inspire someone, to spread awareness, and to unfold the untold story behind life challenges, we are back again. And well, today is 4th of February, which in itself is a hint that what our today's interview is going to be all about. Well, 4th of February is marked as World Cancer Day, and that is what the theme of our today's interview is. Cancer is a critical human and health issue that affects millions of people each day. India alone witnesses nearly 1.1 million cases of cancer each year. While we might be aware of what cancer is, we barely know the invisible process that a cancer patient witnesses at an emotional as well as physical level. And well, to give a picture to this invisible process, today we have with ourselves a very special guest. A warrior, a fighter, a survivor, or shall I rather call her a miracle child of God? Well, you'll get the reference to this one very soon. Stay with us to find it out. So, we have with us the teen cancer fighter and survivor, Monica. Monica was diagnosed with aplastic anemia, a form of blood cancer, in the year 2015. At the age of 15 years, right before her 10th boards. She missed 2 years of her schooling, witnessed some major ups and downs in her entire treatment process, and she fought off cancer with a wide smile on her face. And here she is with us today to share her journey, to unfold the untold story, and to inspire us with her victory.
And
So, before I begin with my first question, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude from the Calm Sage team for your conscious
yeah,
decision to come forward and talk about the invisible process, emotions, and struggles that underlie the health condition, I would rather say critical health condition, cancer. So, I'll start by asking you that how are you these days and what have you been up to these days?
I'm really good these days. I'm fine because right now I'm dealing with my college classes, and yeah, it's good.
Life is going good?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So let's now dive into the your cancer life with and beyond cancer journey. So my first question for you is that what were the first few symptoms that you or your family members noticed that right before you were diagnosed with cancer?
Initially, my parents didn't know that I might have cancer. Because I used to be sick for several weeks,
Okay.
and my body became pale. So my parents thought that I might get checked for jaundice.
Okay.
So they got me tested for the same 3 or 4 times, but it was negative every time.
Okay.
So finally, they thought that I should get checked for my hemoglobin level. That and when I get tested, they got to know that my level has been dropped to 3 grams.
That's
That is
Yes.
where they started to realize that it might be something serious.
Alright. Okay, so these were the first few symptoms. Your body turning pale and then your hemoglobin level
It
going
was
down.
fatigue, shortness of breath,
Okay.
and I used to get sudden blackouts.
Oh, okay. Alright. So these were
Yeah.
the first few symptoms that you and your family noticed. The second question that I have for you is that when doctor gave you the verdict that you are having a plastic anemia, So what
Yeah.
was reaction of you, what was your reaction and that of your family? That, knowing
Uh,
that you have now stepped into a battlefield with cancer, and, was there a, a change in mental state of yours and your family?
for a civil days, I actually didn't got much information about what I am going to be
Okay.
through.
Okay.
But it was a shock. Even my parents were not told about it.
All
So
right.
it happened in a shocking way
Okay.
because they never. I was always a healthy. I was the healthiest child in my family,
Mm-hmm.
and no one could believe that this could have happened to me. Even when my parents used to tell someone that she's sick and she's having aplastic anemia, and they got sudden jerks that no, she was the healthiest one. How can this happen to her?
It didn't used to, sound true to you or to your other family members that this could be happening to
Never,
you.
because these such type of things might be passed from someone in your family, and in my family we didn't have any such history that
Okay.
someone might have someone could be in such a
Anyone know, like, no
thing.
one was diagnosed with cancer if you consider
Never
the
in
past
my
history?
family, no one was
Okay.
ever diagnosed with cancer.
Okay, so you were the first one. So that was a major bummer that,
Yeah.
the healthiest child,
Yeah.
and you being so young. So, okay, fine. So everyone was in a state of, shocked, I would rather say. All right. So, when, like, you just shared with us that it was a bit of a shock for you as well, the way you got to know that you are, having a plastic anemia. So, can you tell us a bit about that? That why it was a shock? Like, how the news was told to you?
Yeah. So when my parents got to know that my hemoglobin level was has dropped, so they got me admitted in a no, in a city hospital.
Okay.
So they thought that after they I was given treatment for anemia,
Okay.
iron deficiency. So they thought that अभी तो बच्ची है, she'll have healthy diet or she'll cover it up. So a month passed and my father said that we'll get you checked again, and if the same has happened, then you're not going to be sitting in your examination. So they got me checked again, and then again dropped at 4 grams. So then at that time, my father realized that it could be something serious.
Mm-hmm.
So they got me admitted into another bigger hospital.
Okay.
So there, I got my first bone marrow sample tested. So they told my father that you have to leave for Delhi,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a little realization that this is going to be worse.
Oh.
So my father was in Navy, so I got admitted in a hospital that was for
Civil.
that was not for civil
Okay.
civil
Okay.
for people, मतलब civilians.
Mm-hmm.
So there I got tested for a major bone marrow sample was taken,
Mm-hmm.
and for the first 1 or 2 days, I just used to sit on my bed and just look at the people around me, and they were all, the cancer people. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't had hair on their head, and there that was the first shock for me that I'm going to be one of
Okay. You'll be joining
that
them,
was
like, soon.
I
You'll be
realized that
sitting in their
this is
position.
going to be worse
Okay.
phase.
Okay. So that's when you realize that you have been diagnosed with this condition. So,
Yeah.
you were first shifted to the ward, and that's when you realize that, okay, this is what the condition is.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I have to agree that you weren't, I think no one is prepared for such a news or such a thing, no matter whether it's running in family history or not. So, of course,
Yeah.
especially for you, as you mentioned that you have been the healthiest kid. So for you and your family, it would have been, a complete different scenario, that there is no one in past history, you being the healthiest child, and then you weren't even told directly and, upfrontly that yes, this is the condition. So uh, that would have been, the starting phase. So in while introducing you, I mentioned that you have been a miracle child of God. Although I know
Yeah.
that bit of the story, but I would like you to tell that story or that bit of your treatment journey to, to share it with our viewers as well.
Okay. So I got my transplant done in 2015, February 2015. So what happens after a transplant? You have they keep you in the transplant cell for a month.
Okay.
So after that, being a post-transplant patient, your level of cells, blood cells, white blood cells or platelet, they should increase day by day. But that never happened in my case. So the doctors thought that it could be a transplant failure. So they got me checked again for a bone marrow sampling. And bone marrow samples are the worst kind of test the hospital can.
Painful.
So what happened was I got the news that my transplant has failed.
Oh.
So what happened after that was that the doctors suggested that we should go for another transplant, and we have to do it in a. They wanted to do a second transplant in a very short span of time, and I was not ready because I was getting my marrow from my brother, who was 7 years younger than me. So what happened was there was a time when I gave up, and I said that I don't want to put my brother in same as before, because the procedure of taking cells from a donor, it is very difficult. So I don't wanted my brother to be through all that again. So I just gave up and I said that I don't want another transplant. We'll see what will happen. So after 2 months, I guess, and I got tested again, and what my parents got to know was that my cells started to increase
without the second transplant.
Without the second transplant, my cells were increasing day by day. So that was the thing where everyone was in a sudden shock that how could this happen, because doctors they have never seen such a thing that at the initial stage that they might find that they have a transplant failure, and after a few days they found that everything is getting again. Normal.
Okay. So that's why I referred you as the miracle child of God, because your test report, because generally right after the transplant, as per my knowledge, the cells starts to increase, like they start to develop on their own. But in your case, that wasn't the scene. And plus, then it was a bummer for you to ask your younger brother again and put him to the same process. So you thought, it has
he
to
was
be
very supportive during the whole procedure. He was the most bravest person I have seen in my family of four.
Wow.
He never denied. He was like that. I'll do it. I'll do it for my Didi. I'll do it. I don't have any problem in giving cells again. No, I can't. If I am not going to do this, then who will do this? So he was the most bravest person in my life.
He was standing tall with for the entire process, and even after that, I'll say. So wow, that's amazing. I think because having that kind of support motivates you, and it keeps you in that right headspace. Not only during the treatment process, but also after that. So that's why I referred you as the miracle child, because after the failure, without another second transplant, you did succeed to get those numbers increasing. So it was a miracle. I think it was a shock for doctors as well, because you being a unique case in yourself, and yes, proving them wrong and proving I would say the entire process not wrong, I would say, but yes, giving them a shocker that even this is possible if you wait over time and things are going right, if you have that support, so your body automatically starts reacting positively inside as well. So you are a living example of that when you have a positive environment, there are positive things happening within you as well. So that's amazing. So with this, I'll come to my fourth question, which I think like to me it's very important, because everyone has their own challenges in life, and for me the treatment process of cancer is very invisible, because we can't see that what a survivor is going through, what a fighter is going through. So what were the three most challenging points for you in this entire treatment journey of yours?
First was that first bummer for me during that whole process was getting used to the fact that yes, I have cancer and that is not going to change. Second one was that in the whole treatment procedure, the final treatment is a bone marrow transplant, for which my siblings were tested for a HLA matching, and my brother was the one who was whose HLA was 100% matched by mine, and he was just 8 at that time. So that was the second hardest thing for me, to get my brother through this all along with me.
Okay.
And the third thing was that I was just 15 at that time, and my priority in life was that schooling was my best part of my life. So that was the third thing, that I was unable to live a normal life like a normal kid. I can't play, I can go out, I can touch things. I was not allowed, and I was isolated. So that was the the most hardest one, I could say. I was not able to live my normal life.
Okay, so I think I can relate to it at this point, that when you are just free, you can roam around, you can live your life the way you want, you're just going out, enjoying with friends, and that comes to a completely restricted, isolated ward thing. So that of course becomes a challenge, not only like for not being able to touch things physically, but at emotional level as well, because you're not able to connect with people.
I was also it was I can't even touch my mother.
Oh,
that was the thing at that time.
You weren't.
So it was not a good feeling, I can say.
So that was I would say another level of isolation that you went through. Like not able to meet your people and not being able to touch them. So how long was this isolation period of yours was for?
That was for almost for a month. When you kept in your transplant cell, that is the only period when you are isolated from the outer world.
All right.
After that, you are not isolated, but you have to
take the precautionary measures.
You have to take precautions for that.
Okay. So I think 1 month is.
So it was only for a month, 1.5 months, I guess.
Okay. So how did you deal with that isolation period? What kept you motivated actually at those times? What kept you motivated? The people around me kept me motivated a lot, because I was the youngest one among the people in my ward. So I was loved by all, even not even patients, even by their family members. So that was the best thing. And even the doctors, being the youngest one, you're the only little person. They used to love you a lot. So people around me kept me motivated a lot. So I think with this,
my family.
as you mentioned earlier, that your brother was there for you the entire time. Okay, so this brings me to my next question. I was reading an interview that was centered around cancer patient only, that dated back to 1980s, although it is pretty old for this time right now. But still, the focus of that entire interview was providing emotional support to cancer patient, because I believe and I think all mental health professionals will agree on that point, that it is a very critical health situation where you need that emotional support from your loved ones, from your co-patients, from your doctor. So do you think that um, considering your story so far, you did have emotional support in this entire journey? So do you think that it did make a difference in your entire treatment process, receiving that kind of support, and always having people to cheer you up and back you? So how did it work for you, the emotional support aspect?
Emotional support helps a lot in such cases, because it's it's all about a mental health. It's all about your mental health. So uh, I was really I am actually really thankful to the people that were with me during that time. Even the co-patients of mine or their family members, they never there was not even the thing is that when you enter a ward, a hospital ward, that is the most positive space you can ever be in, because you can hear people praying for themselves and also for you. So that emotional support helps a lot during the whole process, and I was so thankful that I got it from each and every person, whether there's the co-patients or the doctors or the family members, everyone was there for me. So that was the bestest thing in the whole
They always
treatment
kept
procedure.
you rooted. Do you have a story to share with us that can, that any instance where you felt that, okay, I'm having so many people to support me?
Yeah, actually, the thing is that we have a long list of cancer patients. So they and there was just I guess there were just 5 transplant cells. So they because I was a child, and the doctors prefer to treat the children first, then the people of older age.
Okay.
So I get they kept me in their priority. I got to enter in the transplant cell like very quickly. And there's what happened was that when I was about to enter in my transplant cell a few days back, when I was tested for everything before entering a transplant cell, I got so much love from my co-patients and their family. They used to gift me things. They used to give me balloons and chocolates that you'll be fine, you'll ride, you will be back soon, everything will be fine. So that kind of emotional support I've never got it from anyone.
So that's very heart
And
touching.
this could be only found by the people who are going through the same as you,
Because they are in your shoes.
because they don't have sympathy, they have empathy for you, because they are going through the same procedure.
Wow.
Same process.
You just quoted something very amazing, because that's what the difference between sympathy and empathy is, that they were in your shoes.
Yeah.
They could know that what all fears you are facing, what all strong emotions you are going through, what are your concerns and everything. So they actually had empathy, and that was so pure, because you weren't going upfrontly and asking for it, but they were rather coming up to you and showering their love on you. So
yeah. Because in the life of a cancer patient, you don't know what would happen next.
True.
So there was this time when we used to like at night we are talking to someone, and the other day we got a bummer that they are no more. So these are the things that pull you back during that time, or you feel helpless that that could be you the other day. It could happen to you. So emotional support is the most important thing
That
to
you know.
give
Mm.
someone during
Because
the hard
Mhm.
phase of their life.
Because it keeps you on track and it makes sure that you know,
Yeah,
like you just said, that you know certain events pull you back, but then emotional support is something that keeps you on track and
that
makes sure
keeps
that
you that keeps you on track.
that keeps your spirits high. I would rather say emotional support
Yeah.
actually does keep your spirits high. So with this, next thing that I have to ask you is, was there a point in your journey of battling of cancer where you felt hopeless, or you know your fears overpowered you, or you had the thought of giving up on the entire process and just living your life the way you were? So if that was the scene, that what kept you motivated during those times?
I was very much positive during my whole treatment process.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the time post my transplant period. So what happened was that uh, there used to be being a post transplant patient, you have to be there should be a stability in your
Mm-hmm.
health after your transplant. So I never had that stability because I had a bone marrow failure. Then
Mm-hmm.
I got the transplant. Then it was a transplant also failed at that time. So what happened was my immunity level was so low that I used to get a new problem every day.
Oh.
Uh, I got paralyzed for I guess a half month. So that was a time. Initially I used to say that I can do this. I will fight this. But that was a time when I just gave up and said my mother. I just asked her that I'm not going to be fine again. So that was the day when I said that I'm not going to do this all again. I have given up.
So
My
you were
body has given up.
exactly like you know your body and you yourself at mental and emotional level. I think you were so exhausted that those you know thoughts came to
Yeah.
you. They kept chasing you. So when did you put a full stop to these thoughts? Like what kept you motivated even you know in those times, because it was of course very conscious of you to first of all take the decision that your brother won't be you know, neither will you or nor your brother will go through a second transplant and everything. So you have
Yeah.
been very you know strong for the entire process. So when you had this breakdown, this mental breakdown, so what again you know lifted your spirits?
My family was the main reason that I have to be positive again. They
Mm-hmm.
were the reason because I have never seen my father crying of helplessness. So when he got to know that my transplant has failed, he just sat near me and he was crying, and that was the most I can't even explain that feeling that your father is sitting in front of you and, and crying of helplessness that he can't do anything to save her daughter.
This gives me
So
goosebumps.
you have to do this for your family, even if you have pulled her back or you're mentally not prepared, but you have to do it for your family or your for parents. Or I have that one thing in my mind that my brother is ready to
Hmm.
do this again just for me. So why can't I fight it?
Oh, so that
So
kept you.
that were the things that keep me motivated and made me positive again. And there was the thing that a cousin sister of mine had been through the same
Mm-hmm.
many years back.
Okay.
So I just kept in mind that if she can, then I can also.
Okay, so you had another warrior to take inspiration from, and plus, you know, when you see your family in that phase and you know that you being positive and you keeping your spirits high is the only way that they'll also stay
That
strong.
can they can
Yes,
also stay
yes.
strong.
So
Yeah.
that kept you motivated. All right. So, did this journey of you know life before, with, and beyond cancer taught
Yeah.
you a life lesson that you are going to preach throughout your life?
Yeah, that has taught me a lot. That as being a normal kid, like a physically normal kid, I used to be very active in everyday activities of my life. I used to play, I used to dance. I was the person who used to make friends like this. And after that, it was all like I have to stay away from things that I used to love a lot. So this taught me a lesson that you should little moments of happiness gives you a lot. You should reach them. I say that you should be happy, but a person should feel happy in small things.
So basically,
because when you're not going to have those things, then you'll realize that those little things were also a lot to people who cannot have them.
Okay, so you learned this lesson that you should enjoy and cherish everything that life has to offer you.
Enjoy
Yes, and I
every
think that
moment in your life.
is a beautiful lesson, and I think I would request all my viewers to take a note of it and really preach this learning that enjoy every moment, because you don't know, we are taking it for granted for now, but you don't know for how long it will last. So enjoy it. Okay, so
I would say you should never take your family for granted.
True. That's also very true.
They because being a teenager, there are times when you are always in your own world, but in moments like this or in phases like this, they are the only people who are going to be with you.
That's again
no one else is going to help you. Only your family will be there for you.
True.
So you should always be I can say you should enjoy each and every moment with your family.
Yes, and enjoying their presence around you. That they are there with you, they are there to support you. So spend nice time with them. Why to wait?
You don't know what's going to happen next.
True.
So you should cherish each and every moment with your parents and your family.
Nice. Like you have actually given us two very important life lessons, which I think year 2020 also told us. Like, at least for me personally, I did learn these two important things, that you should enjoy every moment, and you should, every opportunity that you get to spend time with your family members, just go for it. Keep your phone aside for a while and just dive into those hardcore family relationships and feelings. So I'll wrap it up with our final question, that is there a message that you would like to give to our viewers, and especially to those who are currently in a fight off with this health condition, cancer?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I know that it's hard to see positiveness when you have so much darkness around you, but you have to do that for yourself and your family, and it's all in your mind. When you are going to be you are going to be strong enough, then only the treatment can cure you. Otherwise, if you are going to give up, there's no use of the treatment. So you have to be positive through the whole process. There would be a time when you're going to there will be only darkness. You can see that nothing is going to be good, or nothing good can happen. But you have to do this for yourself and for your family, and you should have you should have a positive mental state during the whole process. The medicines will only work if you are positive in your mind.
Couldn't agree more.
Because I believe that during my whole procedure or the whole treatment period, I was when the phase when I was positive enough, I was just positive because I have seen my sister, my elder sister, my cousin sister going through the same, and I was like, if she can do it, then I can do it. So if I can do it, then you can do it.
So like
You can fight with me.
it's like a chain thing that keep motivated
Yeah.
each other, keep taking that motivation from each other.
I would suggest to look at those who have fought it and who have came out of it instead of looking at the negative side of it.
Okay, true.
So
looking at
you should
looking at the positive side and looking at how people have dealt with it and came out strongly. Is that what you should be looking for on the positive edge of the life? I know it can be very difficult, as you just said, that it becomes very difficult to see positivity, or I would say light at the end of the tunnel. But
light at the end.
Yes. So as you just said, that it's not only about the what treatment you're getting on the outside, but having that positivity inside is what channelizes you and what helps your treatment process. And you yourself, I think, are a result of the same thing. As I quoted earlier, that you're the miracle child of God. Even when the treatment gave up, you and the positivity that surrounded you and that was within you, you challenged that transplant again. I think at a very internal and an invisible level, you actually did challenge the transplant, saying that, oh no, you can't be taking over me, it's me who's going to succeed. So all those things, they do make a big difference. Having that positive mindset goes a long way. So I think that's a beautiful lesson for all of us to take. I can't thank you enough, Monica, for making us a part of your journey and sharing your experiences with us. We wish you good luck for your life, and thank you so much for inspiring us. And I bet that someone might have just got inspired by looking at this video, no matter whether he or she is fighting cancer or is not, or is in a different struggling with a different health condition. I think the lessons that you have just shared with us do apply overall, like on a generic level as well, that we should keep our mindset positive. So thank you so much for being a part of this discussion and taking time out to discuss your journey with us. We wish you good luck and take care. Well, if you know someone, or you are that someone who has a story to tell that can inspire many, please feel free to connect with us at info@calmsage.com, or you can also connect with us through our social media platforms. If you have a story to tell, this platform is meant for you. Let us break the taboo and create a judgment-free zone for all of us to flourish in. Thank you for being a part of our initiative. We hope it will make a difference in the life of someone, somewhere. Up until next time, take care and keep smiling. And don't forget to connect with us if you have a story to share with the world.